I'm Jennifer Overholtz of St. Nick Media Services. I want to welcome you today to a conversation with Rob Clark, CEO of Cloverleaf Analytics, and Tom Chesborough, EVP for Cloverleaf Analytics. We want to get started today and talk a little bit about what inspired you, Rob, to start Cloverleaf Analytics and what differentiates you from other BI or analytics providers in solutions.
Great, thanks, Jen. What inspired me to start Cloverleaf is seeing in the industry as new technologies like predictive analytics, machine learning, as well as a lot of third-party data becoming more and more available as the internet expanded and technology expanded. I saw an opportunity where insurance companies could actually leverage the data they have along with some predictive analytics, reporting, business intelligence, and then wrapping in third-party data so that they could actually pull in things like demographic data, socioeconomic data, and property hazard data, things like that, to really get a view, or as we call it, 360-degree view of the customer, and be able to give them a way to have informed decisions that they never had before, insights that were unavailable. So we decided to set out and create a solution. And so within a year, we had created our solution, and now we're doing quite a bit more with it, and it's pretty impressive. Now, as how we compare it to other BI solutions, a lot of them are horizontal, meaning that they're not specific to insurance. We're in P&C insurance specific. And we're a solution, we're not a tool set. So basically, when you use our system, we've got everything that you need for analytics and BI in one box, meaning that loading the data in, we can then provide those capabilities.
Mm-hmm. Great. I love the fact that you not only had industry experience, but also technology experience and rolled those into a solution that you knew people would be looking for. I think that's really a great approach. Tom, maybe you could talk. I think it's fair to say that we've seen the pace and change of business, accelerate rapidly recently. Absolutely. How do you think Cloverleaf's technology has helped facilitate positive change for your customers?
Well, you're right, Jen. We've heard for years that the insurance industry, the pace was going to quicken. And then I think it really still surprised people at the point that when it really did start quickening and picking up. And many were in a position where they needed to try to react to something that they weren't quite prepared for. And the Cloverleaf system, as Rob said, it's a visionary approach to the solution for the industry. And it was designed with an architecture in mind that it can adapt and grow with the dynamic changes the industry is seeing. We're seeing lots of new different types of lines of business and opportunities. New risks are evolving. The business practices have changed in how people want to operate their insurance operations. And the system has been able to adapt and grow as these changes have occurred. We've added new modules. We've added new types of analysis. We've been asked to move into more modeling and clustering of data around risk and profiling. As Rob mentioned, third-party data has been brought in, and we're using it, augmenting that against the data the carrier has. These companies are also putting in modernized core systems to go along with replacing their legacy systems. And they can more readily move and make these changes when you have a BI and analytics solution like Cloverleaf in place, that we can accept data from all different vendor core systems. So we give them a leg up in this process.
I want to go a little off script here and build on that for just a second. So everybody refers to the insurance industry as being very data driven. There's policyholder data, there's risk data, there's all kinds of it that an insurance company is basically sitting on. And would you say that, it's fair to think of Cloverleaf as a way to get more out of your data for a carrier? Rob, do you think that's a fair assessment?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's not only is it a easier way to get more data out, but if you've got multiple systems, like let's say you've got a commercial line system and then you've got a separate system for your personal lines, it's a way that you can combine that data. So you can get so much more out of the data by combining, but also then bringing in third-party data. So you can more or less get into the dark, corners of your system and bring all that data out, and bring it out into the light and actually be able to do something with it and make some meaningful decisions on it.
Mm-hmm. Tom, Rob's point about third-party data is great, and I think there's kind of a proliferation of additional third-party data providers out there right now that the insurance industry can use, that insurance companies can grab new data, different data from, to better assess risks or better assess claims. How does Cloverleaf work with third-party data providers that insurance companies may want to pull from?
We have relationships with several of the third-party data providers. So we have interface capabilities to pull their data in directly. We also have others where it's a little bit more of an alliance of a partnership. And we have inventories of the types of data elements that they have available. And it's almost as if when we're talking with a prospect or a customer about the type of analysis they're looking to do, we can look at just an amazing amount of options of what to choose that might make the most sense for that particular business to look at those data items. Not every data item we pull is going to be relevant, but what we try to do is pull enough of those so that we are going to be covering the scope of it and identify which ones are predictive and should be used and would provide lift to either better underwriting results, improved pricing so that they can gain more profitability, or lower their prices to the customers and get an advantage there. So that's how we've been using our third-party inventory. And we found that to be quite effective, and it's a growing area of our business.
Great, thank you. I think the insurance industry is known for being pretty risk averse. That's not a secret to anyone. It means a lot of the time that they tend to hang back a little bit in terms of adopting technology, implementing new technology. And it also means that a lot of the time they want to have their internal folks, build something homegrown because they feel like they know their data better, they know their customers better. And, that's the first reaction is, we can do this. That said, there are absolutely times where a homegrown solution will work, but in the case of BI and analytics, I think it's a leap sometimes they don't have a good handle around their data, and looking from the outside in is a better way to do it. Rob, maybe you want to start. Maybe Tom, you want to start. I'm not sure talk about what maybe sets your company apart, your solution apart from a homegrown system.
Well, I could take the first part of that. Homegrown systems, that's where things started. There weren't packages like Cloverleaf Analytics back in the day when data warehousing began, and it was a slower industry, as you've already talked about. Well, things are moving a lot faster now. The business requirements are changing and requiring people to know information to be able to compete. Their competitors are moving forward, and they need information, are using it. So all companies are wanting to react and be proactive in a much faster way. Well, the historical homegrown packages that have been built were not designed to do that, first of all. And secondly, as there's a modernization approach by core system vendors, with new core systems for these carriers, their homegrown systems aren't able to adapt and take that data in and allow them to consume it, and to get that data out in a fashion that they can digest it and analyze it in the time frame and the detail that they need. The Cloverleaf system is an area where we resolve that. We are built to work with multiple systems, and we can do it in a very quick fashion. I think Rob can talk about some of the capabilities that we have built into the system that allows us to get a jump start.
Right, Tom. Yeah, and I can absolutely extend on that. The one area that I think is a big differentiator when it's a homegrown versus Cloverleaf is that Cloverleaf is really a complete solution rather than a build your own. And when you're doing a homegrown, one of the issues that you run into is that you have to do tooling. So you're going to have a tool that is extracting your data. You're going to have a tool that's going to clean your data, another tool to profile your data, another tool to actually produce the analytics. And then you're going to look at a visual presentation layer. So there are a lot of moving parts to it. We've combined all that to simplify it, but then we added on to that. So basically, it's a jump start. And so when they come and start using Cloverleaf Analytics, we've got connectors to some of the big policy admin vendors, and we're able to connect into small homegrown systems. And when we pull that data through, our system is built on the Accord reference framework in combination with the OMG working model. And so that gives us over 45 different P&C lines of business, all the data elements needed right out of the box. But of course, we recognize that insurance companies have different needs, may have different data they want to collect, and so they can customize and add additional data elements on the fly. Now, what that provides is by loading the data into that framework, we're able to provide over 900 different key performance indicators so that they can really look at how the performance of their business is, in addition to predictive analytics. And then over 150 scorecards, alerts, dashboards, forecasting, and all kinds of capabilities without them having to try and build that from scratch. It's a case of you don't know what you don't know until you get there. And then a lot of times there's a lot of rework when you're building your own homegrown system. So we get them all the way to the end game without having to do all the heavy lifting to get there.
Do homegrown systems also tend to focus on solving one small problem as opposed to handling all of the BI or analytics needs that the company may need, looking at it more holistically? I guess I see the homegrown activities really focusing in on a single point as opposed to the, like I said, the more holistic problem of data and getting some insights out of it.
Correct. Yep. You're absolutely right, Jennifer. The one thing that we see a lot when companies come to us that have homegrown systems is that those homegrown systems were really developed to solve one small problem. So it may be something in claims or it may be something in underwriting, but they haven't given consideration across the entire enterprise. So they're not thinking about reinsurance when they're bringing in claim information or, about a reinsurance cash call until later on. Then they realize, oh, we didn't bring in the data elements we needed. Or they're focusing too, a lot of times it's focused too narrowly that, it requires a lot more work to get those pieces together and get them working.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Well,
okay.
and Rob, to your point on that, we have insurance data and analytics experts that have worked in this industry for years, and we understand insurance data and how it should be used. And many of our clients and prospects count on Cloverleaf to be their consulting guide to recommend the data elements that they should be pulling from their core systems and third-party data to get the best use and the most value out of the solution. And even within the models, it says, recommended and minimum and so forth, that we guide them through that process to make sure, because they're often uneasy about what to take, what to pull, and what to leave, because they really just don't know, because they don't know how the data will be used. Where we have all this vast experience from working with many clients, that we know the different areas and how people will use and analyze the information. So we pull the right stuff, and that gives them a lot of sleep insurance.
That's a great point. I think to something Rob said earlier, you don't know what you don't know. Sitting there trying to build it yourself, maybe you're deep in the weeds in it. You're living and breathing it, and to be able to get outside of it with a company like Cloverleaf, who can anticipate some of those problems you're going to run into, some of those roadblocks, and some of those additional needs is really a benefit. Let's move on to talk about maybe how you've modified your business strategies during the pandemic. Obviously, the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic is ongoing, and it's really shifting the way that companies interact with their customers, the way that they buy technology, the way that they do business overall. So maybe you can talk a little bit, and maybe Tom, maybe you want to start this one and talk about what your changes have been during the COVID-19 or the global pandemic so far.
We think of ourselves as a partner to our clients, and we have taken the opportunity during this time to have discussions with all of our partner companies, as well as we're also talking to the prospects that we work with, executives in those companies. And, Robert and I have been in this business for a long time, a number of years, and we also have many other contacts in the industry, and we've talked to them as well to try to gain an understanding about what are the impacts to their operations from this pandemic, how are things changing, what are the challenges that they're facing today that weren't there 6 months ago, and what opportunities exist. And they've been providing us a really great set of information that we've been using. And the great news about that is the Cloverleaf solution is capable of adjusting to address many of these issues. So we're currently making adjustments in the solution that will allow us, as we're now starting to come out of the other side of this, and I'm optimistic from what I'm seeing that it's happening, that we are going to be able to offer some of the support that these companies need to manage in what will be the new normal, because things will not return to what it was before. And therefore, there are many new things that are required in order to be competitive in this marketplace. And we have been working on that and are excited to talk to prospects and our clients about what we're doing to address those issues. Rob, you may want to add on to that.
Yeah. With most of our customers, we're cloud-based, and we've been helping some of them in the transition to cloud-based to make it easier for them for their analytics and analysis. And also, we've been working on providing them with virtual training, so to speak. So as their needs are changing, we're providing additional training to help them with, analyzing, in one case, business interruption insurance, and analyzing the impacts of COVID and the shutdowns, and being able to bring that third-party data in, and just some additional training to help them with that, so that they can do their own analysis and really understand what's going on, what their exposure is, and things like that. And of course, we're tailoring our solution for them. As their business needs are changing, so we're seeing, personal auto, they're not driving their cars as much. So the focus that they were focusing on before, which was a lot on claims, is now shifted to more on the underwriting side. So a little more training in catering to them on that perspective, as well as like workers' comp. The claims have changed. So how can they analyze those claims to try and determine, which one should they really go and analyze for fraud? Is, did they fall off a ladder at home, or did they really fall out of their chair? So there's some of those kind of things that, they need help with that kind of analysis. And we've been adapting and changing to their needs to help them with that.
Great. Guys, I think that's a pretty good overview. Is there anything either one of you wanted to add today that we may have missed for anyone listening? Nope.
I don't believe it. I don't believe at this point. Jennifer, I do appreciate you moderating this discussion, and we are excited at Cloverleaf to continue to work with our clients going forward and keep bringing new technology and information to the industry.
Great. Well, I want to thank you, Rob and Tom, for joining me today. If anyone out there is looking for a BI and analytics solution specific to the insurance industry, property and casualty, I think Cloverleaf Analytics is obviously worth a look. You can find out more at www.cloverleafanalytics.com. And thank you very much for joining us.